So, are there any common mistakes that businesses tend to make when investing in a commercial roof?
Yes, actually, that's the number one concern that drove this conversation. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I deal primarily in portfolio management. So it can be across the state, it can be across a region, it can be across the nation. Um, Back when I started, we were putting down 20-year roofs for 30-year roofs with 20-year warranties. Today, you're putting down 20-year warranted roofs that are 15-year roofs, depending on the circumstances. And and So the current practice has always been basically you can have an investment firm that's managing all these funds, really it's a real estate investment trust or it's just a company with private equity and invest in private equity and specifically in certain types of real estate. Um, and they're like headquartered in Texas, so to speak. And then their facilities management department is all the way up in New York. And those decisions are driven. They manage a regional representation throughout the southeast of Florida, and Florida and so on. So they have agents radically around the southeast. Um, each one of those would have a relationship with someone like me in their area, um, and they would rely upon that person for their sometimes limited, often limited perspective and skill set. So their capabilities, their experience in the market, and also what are their priorities. So even roof consultants, I've said it in the past, everybody has their certain biases, certain manufacturers that they like, certain that they recommend. Our job is always to discuss all the advantages and disadvantages of every single option. There's never any perfect option for any one investor. And these decisions that are being made are being passed from, say, Texas to New York, down to Florida, then to a regional, local contractor who has a relationship with the regional agent who is only going by, he's trying to have that conversation of what's best for the property manager or what's best for that investment firm. They're not thinking about the guy who's paying into that fund. They're not thinking about the guy that's putting their life-term investment or diversifying their portfolio by investing in these REITs and or getting in with this firm to manage or do some extra investments. And then that contractor doesn't necessarily have the investor's best point. Their job is to really
Right.
ultimately sell a roof. So if
Mhm.
they don't do this type of roof system, their opinion is going to be swayed. If they haven't come up through hurricanes to see the multitude ways of multiple roof systems and how they fail, they may understand what's going on the TPO section, but when it gets to the metal section, they have no clue what they're really looking at. So the problem is the decision making process has been notched so far down the chain that I feel like if it was my money in this pool or in this fund, and I was promised that they were investing, that my investments were going into premium Class B real estate, industrial real estate, and then I put one of my businesses in those roofs, and I actually found out what was on the roof, I wouldn't be too happy. So
Mhm.
that's what's happening now is in the past and the history of the industry has been always to pass the buck, and to do the least amount to maximize because they have a commitment. They have that firm's that real estate manager, that trust manager's primary objective is to most efficiently manage that fund to yield the highest return for their investor, right? But um, so they're just like, okay, well, I have this much of a segue. They have a certain amount of expectation. Once I meet that, I'm out. They don't want to extend their responsibility any farther. And of course, they don't want to do any less to make sure that they actually still pass a quality asset on to the next person. That's not their concern. So I understand how it happens. But that's the biggest mistake that people are making is they're passing the buck or the decision-making process or relying on certain people all the way out that aren't really looking at the big picture of what they are doing for that one fund that may be all over the nation or in a certain region. They have all these different opinions everywhere. They don't have one central person that knows all of it who can really look at the big picture. And if you could save some money over here and bring it over here, they just look at one investment at a time with all different types of perspectives all the way across the board. So it's not the best, most efficient way to manage an investment fund.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that's really the meat of what we're trying to get to in this podcast is that what you said right there, the investors, all these people, this whole team of people, buying a piece of property or a warehouse or whatever and putting it needs a new roof, and no one's really like hands on. And they're just putting money into it and they don't know what's going on. And then, 20 years down the line or 10 years down the line, that roof is failing because not maintaining it, or there were not the right decisions made in the beginning of the process. So